All right, we're gonna do something that we worked on over summer. If you were with us in summer, then this would be review. And even if you were not with us in summer, it should still be review. You probably did it in school, right? And if that is preterite tense, right? So this week we're going to do preterite, uses of the preterite, and we're going to write a letter that uses the preterite. Next week we're going to do imperfect, uses of the imperfect, and work on a letter with the imperfect, right? Okay, so preterite tense, first of all. So you can see this is the heading up here, right? Yay, put some asterisks. And sometimes it's spelled without the E at the end as well. This is also the simple past tense, right? So, what are some verbs you could think of in English? To wake up, so I woke up. Right, so these are examples in English. I sat, I ate, I walked. Right, so the general understanding of it is that the action is in the past and completed. Right, if the action is completed in the past, then we can use the preterite tense. Now, as with so many other tenses that we conjugate, we get the stem by removing the AR, the ER, IR ending, and then we add new endings for each person, right? So the first one we have, of course, is the AR verbs. AR verbs are most popular in Spanish, right? So we have for yo, we add E accent, so we get cante, yo cante, or just cante, I sang, right? To cantaste, A-S-T-E is the ending, right? Because, sorry, just to clarify. So we had cantar, we took off the AR, and then we add the endings, right? So you sang, right? Ella canto, right? So he or she, or also usted, right? Sang. It's you, formal sang, right? All right. Nosotros cantamos, we sang, right? Ellos, ellas cantaron, A-R-O-N. They sang, or you plural sang, right? Now, if you do not have this note in your lessons book, please take it down. If you do have this note in your lessons book and you already know this inside out, then what you can do, whoops, is conjugate in the meantime. You can try hablar. By conjugating hablar. You can try gritar, to shout. Limpiar, to clean, right? And you can put those answers in the chat. So I'm giving people time to write if they're copying on the endings. And if you are done copying on the endings, you can put the conjugation of these verbs into the chat. All right, so let's see if we're conjugating the others. Let me clear some space up here. Right, okay, so if we do hablar first, hablar to talk or to speak. So yo hablé, I spoke, right? So sorry, let me just slow down a bit. So we take hablar, cross off the AR. For the yo form, we add E accent, right? For the to form, we add ASTE. So to, HABL is the stem, ASTE, hablaste, you spoke, You talked. Él, ella habló. So H-A-B-L again, and an O with an accent, right? He, she, it, usted spoke, right? Nosotros, H-A-B-L again, A-M-O-S is the ending, hablamos, and then ellos, ellas, hablaron, right? We spoke, or ustedes, right? They / you, plural and formal, spoke, right? All right, I'm gonna call the others so you can check it against what you have. Right, so for gritar to shout, grite, you take off the AR to GRIT, you add E accent, grite, gritaste, grito, gritamos, gritaron. For limpiar, limpié, limpiaste, limpió, limpiamos, limpiaron, right? All right, now I want to point out two things that you probably already noticed, right? And what are the two things? One thing is, how do you say I speak? I talk. The present tense now. Wouldn't we say hablo? Hablo. So if you look at it, Hablo, and if you look at the ALA form of the past tense, Hablo, accents, right? So the stress of the word, when you're listening now to the language, where the stress falls tells you whether the word is in the present tense or the past tense. So hablo, the stress falls on the E. Hablo, right? I'm speaking. But él, ella habló, the stress falls on the O at the end. Then it's past tense. He or she spoke, right? All right. One other thing. What is the present tense of nosotros form of hablar? Isn't it nosotros if we're doing present tense? Isn't it nosotros hablamos? Isn't it nosotros cantamos? Isn't it gritamos? Isn't it limpiamos? So if you look at it, it's the same ending, isn't it? For preterite and present tense. Okay, the context will tell you. If you're writing, you will write the context, but if you're listening in a listening comprehension, the context will tell you if it's past tense or present tense, right? All right. Let's look next at the the ER forms. All right, so here we have cohere to catch as our verb. So we take off once more the ending, we take off the ER, right? We're left with the stem COG, and you'll be happy to know the ER and IR endings are the same, right? So for yo, we add I accent. For tu, we add ISTE. For ele, usted, we add IO accent. For nosotros, we add imos. And for vosotros, we add IERON, right? So cogí, cogiste, cogió, cogimos, cogieron. All right, and one time we'll do IR because it's the same, right? With dividir to divide. So we take off the IR, and we're left with the stem. And for the yo form, we add I accent. For the tu form, ISTE. For the nosotros, ellos state, sorry, IO accent. Nosotros, IMOS. Ellos, ellas, not vosotros, I'm so sorry. For the nosotros form, IMOS. For the ustedes, ellos, ellas, IEROY, ERO, right? All right, can I clear up the hablar above, the conjugation of hablar above? Nobody's using that, right? All right, I'm gonna ask you to try when you are done. Conjugating, and you can put it in the chat. Comer, and beber, and vivir. Okay, so for comer, we take off the stem, which is the ER. We take off the ending, sorry, which is the ER. We're left with the stem, right? So COM, I accent, comi. Comiste, comió, comimos, comieron. Right? So I ate, you ate, he, she ate, usted ate, we ate, they ate. Now, how would we say we eat in Spanish? Nosotros form present tense of comer. We eat. So comemos, right? The present tense ending would be comemos. So just now I pointed out to you that for the AR verbs, the present tense ending and the preterite endings are the same. For the ER verbs, they're not the same, right? Comemos. We eat. We are eating. We do eat, right? That's some sketchy handwriting here. Right, so just be aware of that. But for the IR verbs, it's going to be the same, right? All right, so dividir was the IR example. Oh, we have beber, so let's do that. Baby, bebiste, bebió, bebimos, bebieron. Okay, and then the IR verb vivir. If you think you spot an error, you could tell me, right? Cross off the IR, just right, we took off the ER, we took off the IR, and VIV is a stem. So vivi, I lived. Viviste, you lived. Vivió, he, she, it, usted, lived. Vivimos. So this form is the same as the present tense form, right? We live is also vivimos, right? Vivieron. They lived, right? If you have any questions, let me know, right? Okay. Now, so we've talked about how to form the preterite tense, and we've looked at some of the regular verbs, the other regular verbs. You've got a chance to practice with actually forming the preterite tense for those, right? The next slide, we're going to go to the next two slides, will be uses of the preterite tense. It's very detailed, and the examples, there are examples for each use, right? The examples are designed to do a double duty. They're examples for the rule about the preterite, but there are also sentences that could help us write a letter about what we did when we visited Costa Rica, right? Which is what we're going to do after we're done talking about the preterite today, right? So we're going to take our time. We're going to write down Or let's not skip any. Let's not assume that we know. Let's ask questions if we don't understand anything, right? Okay, so I'm going to clear this away and let's go to the next slide. So when to use the present tense, right? Which we said was the simple past tense. Now why is that? So let me give an example in English first before we start writing. Just now I had asked a question about eating, right? So um all right. Yeah, I can say in English, I can say we ate, right? Um, we ate a meal at the restaurant. This is not for anybody to write down. This is just an example, right? And I can also say, um, we were eating a meal at the restaurant, right? There are lots of different ways to say the thing in past tense. Say a thing in past tense. This is just two of them. So this one would take present tense because it's done and it's past, and I'm just trying to say it's done, right? And this one we're eating would take imperfect tense because I'm trying to emphasize that it went on for a while. Now let's see. All right. For 2 years, every morning, still we're just discussing, right? My mother drove me to school. All right. So the two above, you could see those are different verbs. We ate it, it's done, it's gone, versus we were eating it for a while. It was going on for a while. Now this verb drove, she drove me to school. Here I have a choice in Spanish. If the meaning I'm trying to convey is that it happened for 2 years and it's done, then I might use portrait. But if the meaning I'm trying to convey is that she used to drive me to school, then I might use imperfect. Right? Because this one is to emphasize it was going on for a while. But if the meaning is to say it's done, she doesn't do it anymore. It's over and done, and now I walk, or now I drive. Right? Here we might use portrait. So it's a trickier thing in Spanish because the verb might sound the same to us in English. It's not always clear from just hearing the verb if we want portrait or imperfect. No, you don't have to write this down, right? This is just an explanation with some examples. Okay, so let's clear this away. All right. First thing for using portrait. We use the portrait for completed actions, right? So this phrase is important, completed actions. But the action is done, it's not still going on. It's finished, right? All right, so an example, remember I mentioned we're using some examples of a vacation. Right, so Mercedes viajó a Costa Rica el mes pasado. So Mercedes traveled to Costa Rica last month, right? So our present tense is traveled and viajó, right? The travel is not still going on. The travel is done. Right? She's not still in transit. She's not still on the plane. She's not still on the trip. It's over, it's done, it's completed. Right? That's our first point. So we're taking an example. The only thing you don't have to take down is the English, right? The English is optional. Instead of writing on the whole English sentence, what I would recommend is if there's a phrase you don't understand, like el mes pasado, you could write that down. You can underline el mes pasado and write last month. If viajo is an unfamiliar verb for some reason, but it's not because you all know it, right? Viajar, you could write down viajar, to travel, right? Writing down, to me, writing down the whole English translation is not helpful because it doesn't teach your brain to do the work of translating or getting the gist of what the thing means, right? And you could get the meaning without understanding every single word. All right, next one. The specific date, time, or date in the past. Now, this thing in brackets is like an explanation of the first main point. So that too is optional, right? So I'm going to put here English and brackets, optional. If you needed to help you understand something, no problem. All right, but if you feel it's repeating what is already in bold, then don't write it down. Specific time or date in the past. So I want to tell you something happened, and I'm also going to tell you when it happened. I'm going to tell you the time it happened. I'm going to tell you the date it happened. So if it happened at a time in the past or a date in the past, it's done. It's still a completed action, right? Mercedes llegó a Costa Rica el 1 de diciembre, right? So here is my date. And here is my future tense. Llegó, from llegar, to arrive. Ready for the next one? Here is the date, right? Okay. The action in question must have a clear beginning and a clear ending, right? So define beginning and end, right? Clear start, clear finish. Okay, so Mercedes se quedó en Costa Rica por 2 semanas, right? So she stayed in Costa Rica for 2 weeks, right? So the 2 weeks are done. That is what this conveys. The 2-week period is done. Now, it is possible the person might have wanted to say she's going to stay in Costa Rica for 2 weeks. The person could also have wanted to say, she was staying in Costa Rica for 2 weeks. And then they would use imperfect instead of pressured. But in this case, they're trying to emphasize that it's done. So somebody may have asked her, or somebody may have asked, how long was she in Costa Rica for? For 2 weeks. right? Se quedó por 2 semanas. All right, and a similar one to this, the duration of an action. So you can see in the above example too, that it's for 2 weeks. That is the duration, right? So, pasó una semana en la playa. She spent 1 week at the beach. So pasó una semana, right? So how long did it last for? And the above example is another example of that. The visit was only 2 weeks long. The stay on the beach was 1 week long, right? All right, let's discuss the last one. Repeated, completed actions. Something you do over and over, and they're done. So every day, Mercedes went to the market. Maybe she was too cheap to pay for hotel food. Maybe she was cooking. I don't know. So something she did over and over, but they're all done now, right? It's done now. And that is important to distinguish from imperfect, because to say so that we could distinguish it from imperfect, which is things that are done over and over in the past, do require imperfect, right? But since these actions are completed, and we're not emphasizing the fact that we used to do them, we're just saying, it was done. We use preterite, right? So fue al mercado. This doesn't have the sense of she used to go to the market every day. This is, she went to the market every day she was there. It's not that she used to go every day, right? When we use fue. So fue is went, and todos los días durante su visita. So her visit is done, so her visits to the market are done. Right, so they are not going on any longer. Right, and we're not saying used to. If we wanted to say used to, we would use the imperfect. But we just want to say, she did this and now it's done. The presentation seems to be frozen. All right, let's try this. All right. Okay. Interrupting actions. And remember what I said, the English translation is optional and the stuff in the brackets is optional, right? y'all know that knock knock joke about the interrupting call? So one person says knock knock, and the other person says who's there, and the first person says interrupting call. And as the other person goes to say interrupting call who, the first person goes moo. All right, well, we need to talk about an interrupting action, right? So sometimes in a sentence, you could have two past tense events. I was reading a book when the phone rang. I was writing my test when my pencil point broke, right? So you were doing something, and then along came another action, the phone rang, my pencil point broke, and that action interrupted what was going on, right? That action is in the preterite. So the interrupting action takes the preterite, right? So Mercedes, at one point, Mercedes estaba en la playa cuando empezó a llover, right? So she was on the beach, just chilling, minding her business. Well, and then it began to rain, right? So the empezó a llover is the interrupting action. All right, let's look at the next one. So actions that are single in the past, but also the ones that follow each other. So consecutive actions, right? All right. So single and consecutive means one right after the other, right? So if you find yourself listing out actions, one right after the other, then it's probably preterite that you need, right? All right, so Mercedes llegó a Costa Rica. So she arrived in Costa Rica. She took a taxi. This happened right after she arrived. Tomó un taxi to the hotel, right? She took a taxi to the hotel. Y se registró. She registered. She checked it, right? Now, if it were by itself, they would still be pressured. The fact that they come one right after the other helps us see that they are past tense actions, right? All right, next one. Series of actions in the past. Okay, now this is a similar example to the one above. So if you don't want to write it, I'll say this is optional too, but please take down the example. At least the second piece, right? So you can actually just add, maybe you could just add this to above here. Just this piece, right? Tomó muchas fotos y visitó la playa. So muchas fotos, because it's actually la foto, right? Even though it ends in O, it's one of those special words. Like el agua and el dia, right? All right. Next one time, narrations. So when you're telling a story, right? Mercedes salió de su casa, right? Y viajó a Costa Rica. So we have this expression a lot of times. You don't need to take it again, right? Para unas vacaciones inolvidables, right? But when you're telling a story, and therefore you're telling the events that happen in the story, we use future tense, right? So I want you to know the points, but perhaps the example is optional because the above example illustrates that too, and there's no new vocabulary. Well, this piece is. Right, and then the beginning or end of an action. So we sort of had this earlier, right? So this too is optional. So we said Mercedes empezó sus vacaciones el 1 de diciembre y terminó el 15 de diciembre, right? The ending part is new, but we already did this before. So please note narrations and note beginning and ending of an action, right? This one, this one. This might be a nice phrase to remember. This might be an example, right? To make it make sense, you'll have to put in terminó sus vacaciones, right? Right. Okay. So we're taking down the examples, and as soon as you finish, tell me, we'll time off 5 minutes. All right, now ordinarily we would do the shall of the letter first, but let's just do the body since we have some help for the body already. Right? So, ¿qué hice durante tus vacaciones? Right? I would want to say that we went to Costa Rica. Right? We traveled to Costa Rica last month. Right? So now the future tense of ir is irregular. Right? So I'm just going to give you the yo form, which is fui. Right? That is I went. So I'm going to start. We are Costa Rica. We're going to come back and put in the shell of the letter afterwards, right? So if you would like to, you could skip some lines. Maybe about 3 or 4. El mes pasado. Right? Pasado. Right. Okay. Look back at your examples, or even if you want to do it from memory, and tell me what are some things that you did in Costa Rica. When did you arrive there, for example? How long did you stay there, for example? What did you do while you were there? All right, so I'll help us out a little bit. Yegar is the verb. Um, I'm gonna put a date. So it's December now, so it'll 15 de noviembre, right? So how do we say I arrived in Costa Rica? What do we do with the llegar? How do we change that to present tense? Tell me the answer for this. I arrived. Well, present tense would be llegó. Llegué. Right. Now, there's a rule here that we haven't done yet because we just introduced present tense, but perhaps you've done it in school. Now, if I write LLEGE for the yo form, how am I going to end up having to say that G? I will have to say, huh, yeah. When G is in front of a E, it's a soft G, right? So what we do instead is we put a U to preserve the G sound, llegué, right? And you put an accent. So llegué a Costa Rica el 15 de noviembre. All right, so tell me, I got there. After I got there, what did I do? So tell me about tomar un taxi al hotel. See, no caps, no caps. Y the infinitive is registrarse. And I checked in. So what is I took? It's an AR verb. You take off the AR, and what do you add at the end? For the yo form, you add what? And then what do we do with registrarse? Right. Good. So I took a taxi. Tomé, accent on the E. All right. Tell me about registrarse. And I checked in. How do I say that? I checked in. Well, I think we have to conjugate registrarse, right? So if you look back at your example, which was it? I think it's on the second slide for singular and consecutive actions in general. Right? And if you think about it, I took a taxi to the hotel and you have to say I registered, right? Now, if it were, let me show you how you would keep it in the infinitive, right? If it was para, right, to register, then I don't repeat the subject, that's okay. Right? So tomei un taxi al hotel para registrar me. I have to make the say agree with me, right? So me, then infinitive. But I had E. Didn't I have E? Right. So E me registré. Right. Good. Great. Now, tell me how long I stayed in Costa Rica. How long did I stay in Costa Rica? So that is quedarse. An example of this is on the first slide where they say Mercedes stayed in Costa Rica for 2 weeks. How long did I stay? Right. Now it has a say, so don't forget your reflexive pronoun has to remain in the conversation. Good. So me quedé in Costa Rica. All right, this time we use for because we're talking about the duration of time. I'm gonna put 3 semanas, but una semana is fine too, right? I just know what I want us to say we did, so I'm gonna give us 3 weeks to do it, right? All right, I'm gonna put also fue. Now this time it will be the irregular form of ser. So fue, it was. I want to say it was an unforgettable vacation. How do I say it was an unforgettable vacation? Now in the example you have plural, unas vacaciones inolvidables. I'm going to make it singular, right? So fue una vacación, accent on the O, inolvidable. Right? It was an unforgettable vacation. So here I have portrait again. All right, now let's talk about the things that we did while we were on vacation. We can use different verbs from the ones in the examples I gave you, but what are some things you would have done on vacation? You have to tell me in Spanish. What are some activities you would do? Okay, great. Tomé muchas fotos y visité al museo. Right. Okay, ir de excursión, okay. So fui de excursión. What did we do every day? Did we go to the beach every day? Did we go to did we eat in a restaurant every day? Did we what did we do? What's something you think you would do every day on vacation? Okay, I'm gonna say, did we already use visitar? Yeah, we did. Okay, so right. Okay, so we ate at restaurants every day. Okay, so for me, accent on the I, right? A los restaurantes. We ate at restaurants. Um, todos los días. Sorry. Durante mi visita. Yes, you could also say fui a la playa cada día. Good. Right. Accent on the I, right? Now understand, if it is our intention to say I used to go to the beach every day, then we would not use preterite, right? But if it is our intention to say we were on vacation and we went to the beach every day, it's over and done now, then we could use preterite. And if that is confusing anybody, you could tell me, right? All right, what else would we put in here? Anything else we did? Anything else we want to do? Did we already say we didn't say anything about the beach? We could say that. Fui a la playa cada día. Yes, we could say that. I'm gonna put pasé una semana. Fui a la playa todos los días. We could also say that. A la playa, right? Sorry, una semana. Right? So we spent a week. I spent a week at the beach. Okay, and then finally I returned home, right? Fui a sitios históricos. Yes, that's also very good. Yeah. What about shopping? Right? Fui a comprar what? Yeah. Souvenirs. Okay, recuerdos. That's nice. All right. So finalmente, I'm gonna put that as our last thing, right? Fui a comprar recuerdos. I went to buy souvenirs, right? Okay, what is to return home? So let's say regresar, or even volver. Volver, let's go with volver. So we're gonna change volver to past tense. Volvi, good, right? So the volver, even though it's stem changing, the stem doesn't get involved, right? Because we get the O to UE doesn't change because we get the stem from the infinitive. Right? Right. Okay. And we have a letter here. Let's see how many words we have. Okay. So our greeting, whomever we're writing to, querido, Juan, I don't know. Or it could be querida, whomever, right? And we start with our usual, espero que te encuentres bien. I hope this finds you well. Right? Perdona que no haya escrito. Excuse me for not having written. Sorry, no te haya escrito, for not having written to you. Antes, before, right? Pero, but I was happy to receive your news. Me alegro mucho. Accent on that O, right? Me alegro. Recibir. Noticias tuyas, right? And now as a transition, we could say, I have my own news, right? So tengo, noticias también. I have news too, right? Fui a Costa Rica el mes pasado, right? And then the rest of all that's all. Okay. How do we close this letter? We did our closing earlier in this using the same PowerPoint, right? A few weeks ago. You want to say that you have to stop writing. You might even say what you have to do. All right, are we ready to continue that last part, or anybody needs more time? Okay, this is a nice ending. Espero verte pronto. Write me, escríbeme, right? Depending on how many words you might need to make up, you could add to the ending. You could say greetings to your family, right? So what else can we say? Saludos de mi parte. A tu familia, right? I hope to see you soon. Write me, right? And then un fuerte abrazo. And your name, right? All right. So we did today pretérito tense. We looked at how to conjugate regular verbs in the pretérito tense. And we use that to help us write a letter, right? Next week, which is our last week before vacation, right? We are going to do imperfect tense, how you form it when you use it, right? And there was a request to do pour and para, so we're gonna combine that. Is there anything anybody else wants to go over before we close off? If not, then the only other thing we might try is an exercise where you have to choose between perfect and imperfect, right? And a reminder again that the Wednesday class is also coming on Thursday, right? So we are combining our class and we're having both classes together on a Thursday. All right, guys, we'll finish a little early. Once you are done writing this down, you're free to go. If you have questions, you could remain, right?